What here follows is text taken from A Tidy Little War, The British Invasion of Egypt 1882 by William Wright. This is a book covering the events of 1882 and the so-called Anglo-Egyptian War of that year. Specifically, we're looking here at an action that happened at the Battle of Tel-el-Kebir and the storming of the trenches, which was done almost exclusively with cold steel. Now, as the Egyptians began to pepper their enemy, General Allison gave the command to fix bayonets. There was a sharp click as thousands of these steel instruments of death, 21.5 inches long, were slipped into their sockets. A few brief words of command were shouted out. Colonel Macpherson, who had marched with the Black Watch in Ashanti, rode down the line. The colonel's voice was clear and firm. "Men, not a shot is to be fired. All work must be done with cold steel. 42 will advance." A lone bugle call rang out that was heard by just enough of the Highlanders to begin a cheer that ripped along the lines of kilted men. To the wail of the bagpipes and with a tremendous roar, a vast wave of Highlanders rushed at the Egyptian trenches. The Highland light infantry on the left of the line and the Black Watch on the extreme right were both delayed by stout resistance from strongly defended redoubts. The attack thus took on an apex formation as the centre battalions of Gordon and Cameron Highlanders charged spear-like at the trenches held by men of Ali Fehmi's celebrated 1st Guards Regiment. It was a distance of 150 yards, but so hot was the fire that nearly 200 men went down in the charge. If the light had been better or the nervous Egyptian fire was lower, many more would have been killed or wounded. "Come on, 79th, yelled Colonel Leith, commanding the Camerons. Pipe Major Grant struck up the March of the Cameron Men, the regimental quick march. The first man to reach the enemy lines may have been Private Donald Cameron, who, it was alleged, was the first man to mount the parapet and the second to fall. The first fatality was Wyatt Rawson, who, riding ahead of the brigade on his horse, was a perfect sitting target. Spencer Ewart, a young officer in the Camerons, wrote home that "We all ran cheering as hard as we could towards the earthworks, stumbling into holes in the darkness. I was dead beat when I fell into their trench, a great deep place. I opened fire with my revolver to clear the way. It was a fearful sight. The Camerons bayoneted everyone." The charge was "the finest I ever saw in my life," claimed a Camerons NCO writing to his local Elgin newspaper. "We were like a lot of mad dogs let loose. We charged right up to the trench, into it, and right into their own ground, without firing." The fight was just as tough for the Gordon Highlanders, who lost 5 dead and 1 missing presumed killed, along with 29 officers and men wounded, 2 of whom who died later. Perhaps the most poignant loss was 23-year-old Harvey Brooks. He was found 20 yards beyond the first trench, lying on his back, with 4 bullet wounds and his hand still clutching the spade he had picked up in the desert, but now dented and bent in the struggle. His missing claymore was found on the sands later the next day. It was the Highland Light Infantry who had the biggest fatalities. Attacking one redoubt protected by an exceptionally wide, deep and steep ditch, they lost 17 killed and 57 wounded, a grim tally of 74 men in what once had been the 74th Regiment of Foot. Their commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Abel Strachan, wrote to his mother in Hereford that he had no time to think of dismounting or the absurdity of charging a redoubt on horseback. The greatest thing was to get the men on. One of the first to rush the battery along this section of the defences was Lieutenant William Edwards, a Norfolkman, who killed the artillery officer in charge and was himself knocked down by a gunner with a rammer, and only rescued by the timely arrival of 3 men of his regiment. His courage earned Edwards the only Victoria Cross awarded during the battle, given to him by Queen Victoria in 1883. The Black Watch also had a tough fight on the brigade's right flank. Private John Gordon rushed forward, cheering as loud as his lungs would allow. Quickly he noticed the Egyptian aim was too high, for as our rear rank sloped arms, the bullets rattled on steel bayonets like a shower of hail on a tin roof. Some of the bayonets were even bent out of shape by the fusillade. The men were in line of double companies at the charge, but reached the trench in one line of 4 deep. Jumping across, Gordon landed on hard sand and pulled himself to the top of the parapet. Captain Fox, his company commander, took on 3 Egyptians at once. Swinging his claymore, he decapitated one and pushed the point into another before the 3rd man shot him through the thigh. Fox was rescued by Private Gordon and some comrades who helped him to a dressing station. This extract has been from A Tidy Little War, The British Invasion of Egypt 1882 by William Wright. These accounts, and ones like them, show that even in 1882 hand-to-hand combat still featured importantly in certain conflicts. The Battle of Tel-el-Kebir actually provides us with many first-hand accounts of hand-to-hand combat. Some of these will be covered in future videos.